This podcast is brought to you by Gamefly.com. Do us a big favor. Go to our website at beatingthebeast.com and click on the Gamefly banner. It'll take you right to Gamefly and you'll get a free offer. You'll love it. And by the way, did you know that on October 1st, the nomination process starts for the Podcast Awards? If you've been digging on any of the podcasts you've heard in the past 2 years, do us a big favor. Go to podcastawards.com, and nominate us for Best Podcast. We certainly would appreciate it. Thanks for listening, guys. Sorry about the pitch. How are you, Mr. Diaz? You're looking very
me, it's a beautiful day in fucking
summery
America.
With your hat. You're like Andy Garcia's uncle or something walking in here.
My man Chris McGuire dropped the hat on me. He's like, he'll add to the repertoire of the day, but a little straw hat. All I need is a cigar.
All you need is a Havana cigar, exactly, man.
That's it. No, it's going to be a hot one today. The heat's fucking breaking. I mean, we're so very happy. I mean, we can't deal with the winters. We're like, fuck, I could never live in Boston or New York again. And then you have 2 months of this shit. And you're like, fuck it. I'll take anything. A penguin, I'll do anything at this point. A fan. It's just been brutal. And it gets hot in the afternoons here. Like by 3, it's on fire, especially in the valleys.
Right.
That's it. I'm just trying to keep the attitude fresh. What's up with you, you sexy motherfucker? What's going on? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I took my son to a skate park, because he's really into skateboarding, and we did that kind of thing. Because I don't want him to go to a regular park because he's already told me, people smoke pot there, and I'm all like, oh no. You know what I mean? We will get you someone to give you lessons. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm nervous, like I can't have him hanging out at a park.
Don't they give you like a bag of weed when you buy a skateboard?
They should. They fucking should. So if you fall down, you don't hurt yourself. You know what I'm saying? Your head all right? Yeah, I smoked 18 fucking joints. I can't even feel my fucking head. What up? It's weird. When we were kids, it was the nunchuck. When we were kids,
the what?
The nunchuck. The karate nunchuck.
Oh, the nunchuck, sure.
Everybody had nunchucks.
Even I had nunchucks.
Sure. Everybody walked around with fucked up elbows, and the back of your head was dented, and there was no medical marijuana, nothing. You fought it out like a soldier.
Yeah.
You went to school with a lump on your head, fucking, you picked those. Then they had the things when we were kids, the 2 balls. Do you remember the 2 balls? I was straight.
The click-clack
things.
Yeah.
People's eye was chipped, and everybody had an eye patch.
I heard that there was... Yeah, no, that was like those things remember the lawn darts?
Yes.
Lawn darts were the things, they were about 18 inches long, had a big point on it, and it was sort of, you'd play like it was kind of like horseshoes, kind of, you'd have like a ring, and then you'd kind of toss it so it would land there, and then, there was always a story about somebody got one in the head or something like that.
Of course, with all those things, with all those stupid toys that were meant to hurt you and thin the herd, they were probably planted by the CIA as to thin the herd.
When I was in grammar school, they had archery.
Right.
And I guess some kid got shot with a fucking arrow, and they stopped it. Yeah, Puerto Rican kid got shot with an arrow. Now he's Indian. You know what I'm saying?
I took archery in school.
Yeah, some people, they don't have archery no more.
Yeah,
they have like tennis now and soccer. They added that shit.
When I grew up, they had NRA in Colorado. You had to take a class when you were in 8th grade. It was mandatory, an NRA class when I was a kid.
How fucking great is
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Colorado don't fuck around. Everybody shows up with a shotgun. Your dad's shotgun. Half the kids are fucking coming in with no head. Because kids always find the gun. They don't find the school book or the notebook, but they always find the gun. You ever notice that shit?
Yeah.
They always do. Kids
when they go to somebody's house, they find
they always do. They always do. I had a situation when I was a kid. A kid pulled a gun out and wanted to play Roman fucking roulette. And today he's still alive. He's on Facebook. He's doing great. He's doing great.
What's Roman roulette? Is that like Russian roulette? Yeah, you wear like a toga?
Yeah, Russian roulette, but you put a bandage around your head.
Grapes.
You're landing grapes and shit. It was just he scared the shit out of us. He came down. His father was a cop.
Right.
This motherfucker came down with, let's play. And all of a sudden he snapped the first one.
What?
And we just froze to Pete. We just fucking froze. It's funny because myself and Rogan were talking about Deer Hunter the other night.
Right.
When De Niro had to go to Vietnam and get.
Right.
And we're talking about what type
I heard that one. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about it. You're talking about getting into character.
What type of job?
Yeah.
is that because there were people, they just didn't make that occupation up.
Right.
In Vietnam, there were 20 zombies walking around that played Russian roulette for a living.
Wow.
Soldiers that stayed to shoot heroin,
wow.
and they just played Russian roulette to make. Can you imagine
that's
money. Your job every night to go in, bet on it, click, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? I got another day. You know what I'm saying? Fuck it.
Wow.
How do you live? I mean, you remember that movie?
I remember the movie. Sure.
He had to come get him, and he was so deep. Christopher Walken was so deep they didn't recognize him. Nicky, it's me, Nicky.
Right.
It's me. He didn't fucking recognize him. You know.
I bet, because when I was a little girl, my dad was in Vietnam, and he was stationed in Fort Ord, and then when he went to Vietnam, he was stationed twice in Vietnam for a year. We moved to Stockton, and I remember being a little kid when he was coming back, and we went to go pick him up, and in San Francisco, and he got in the car, and he smelled so bad, wow. like poison. And we literally had to stop at 2 or 3 motels on the way just from San Francisco to Stockton, which is an hour and a half or 2 hours or something. And he had to take a shower because of the fact that they had poisons from when they would spray with that stuff, Agent Orange. And it would get in their systems because they would be sitting in, the swamp and the water and all that kind of stuff. But he was out of it. He would do crazy stuff.
You think those guys walked around with this bottled water?
Right.
You think they had bottled water that was purified in the mountains? They don't give a fuck. Yeah. They don't give a fuck.
They go down to the Delta. They,
bodies floating around. You push them out of the way. You do your hair. That's good conditioning right there. I bet all those Vietnam vets' hair was shiny like a motherfucker.
My father does have beautiful hair.
I told you. Remember that movie, The Killing Fields?
Oh, yes. That's terrible.
When they were walking and all the bodies were laying. I mean, that's just listen, man. Just seeing that as an 18-year-old.
Right.
They talk about the war now. All these things are bad for kids at 18.
Sure.
You see a dead body at 16, even if you have nothing to do with it, it affects you. You pick up your grandfather or your uncle dies or something, it affects you later on. It really does. I can't imagine being 17 shooting motherfuckers, staying up all night. Did you see those black guys in Apocalypse Now when they went looking for who's in charge here?
Right.
And they were all tripping on acid. Mm-hmm. You just do drugs because what else do you got? You could die at any fucking minute.
Right. Well, it's that Joseph Kony thing, with kids. It's even more like insane where you just, you need an army here. 6-year-old here, grab a gun. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I bumped into Laurence Fishburne once.
Oh yeah.
I was just talking to him in front of a weed store. I just started talking to him. He seen me and he pulled over and we started talking about, I had done a Showtime thing. And he goes, are you the Cuban guy? He goes, I really liked you and the Filipino guy. So he got out of the car and he started talking to me. Ralphie May walks out of the weed store. He's like, what the fuck is this? So here we are. And he said that he was 14 when they shipped him off to do that movie. They shot
right.
It took forever.
He was 14. Right. They shot that in the Philippines for a year. His parents had to go with him.
Yeah.
He was a fucking kid.
Wow.
He was a fucking kid in that thing with Duval, right? No, Martin Sheen. And,
sure.
I mean, that's a hell of a fucking movie with a hell of a, even doing that has to be tough on you. Yeah. These kids, I watch The Exorcist a lot. It's on IFC. It's on IFC. It's on IFC has been throwing heat lately.
Right.
They had The Exorcist on last week, followed by Death Wish, the first one, and I seen The Ark. Him becoming a vigilante. It's just not a white guy shooting Puerto Ricans. No. There was an arc to it. They raped his wife. They killed the daughter. There's an arc. He goes crazy. But I always think about how that movie affected Linda Blair.
Oh, yeah,
like they should just give her $100,000 a year. She stuck a cross in her pussy when she was 12. You gotta explain that to a little girl. Today's scene is completely different, okay? Put down the Barbie.
We got new sides.
Yeah, we gotta talk to you. Put down the Barbie, we gotta talk to you.
There's a tutor on the set.
What are you gonna do? How do you explain to a little girl that when your mother comes in, you're gonna smack her and put your face in your pussy?
Yeah.
And you hear the eat me and all, and then she takes it and she smacks her again. Then the next scene, she comes in with a fucking cross. Where the fuck is Linda Blair walking around today? I mean, is she in the valley?
I don't know.
I mean, where the fuck can she be? You can't
She's
react.
in the valley, but there's no, you can't find crosses
She should have
anywhere.
won an Oscar. Yeah, there's no crosses in her block at all.
She probably hoards them in her apartment.
Can you believe that? When you see it, you're like 12 years of age. How did that movie affect her?
Of course.
How did it fucking affect her? We're back, bitches. Felicia Michaels.
Joey Diaz.
Beauty and the motherfucking Beast. We're having a fun-filled Monday. A great way to start the week. Our guest this week is a fucking dear friend of mine. I've known him. This motherfucker didn't need a second chance. He created his own chance. My brother, Mr. Chris McGuire.
Thanks, man. Come a long way from the Miami Improv.
I
met Joey. I was working at the Miami Improv with Joe Rogan, and I came into the toilet. The toilets exploded, right?
In the condo.
Do you remember? In the condo.
Yeah,
we were in the
flushing
condo.
The toilet paper from the blow.
Is that what happened?
Sure.
Was it your fault?
Yeah.
We walked in. They have the carpet is like kind of up, and they have fans kind of dry out the carpet, which was filled with like shitty toilet water. And I'm like, ugh. I mean, even if it's dry, it's like this is a tear down at this point.
I'm like, come in, it's fun. I got galoshes.
You had a big smile on your face.
Yeah, we had a big condo. The upstairs are 2 bedrooms.
Absolutely.
Then they started putting us in the other thing, but it's funny because I fell in love with you over one of the best jokes I've ever heard.
What was the joke?
The Clint Eastwood joke. It's one of my
police one.
all-time. You know, it's really weird when you see a comic and you think of your, years of doing comedy, and you hear these jokes. Everybody's got brilliant bits and shit,
right.
But there's jokes that are endless with me. I think of your jokes sometimes when I'm typing. You fucked me, Clint. You had a gun. Where's the gun? All that shit.
Oh yeah, it was Bridges in Madison County, and it was
tell
like
the joke to Felicia.
I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago, obviously, but it was like, you turn on Bridges in Madison County, and I go, something's wrong because Clint doesn't have a gun. Then, about halfway in, he starts crying, and I'm like, Clint, you fucked me.
I thought it was such a great joke, and we became friends, and you were a comic like me. We were both feature acts trying to put shit together. You hooked me up with Club 52.
I did? What was that?
What was that club in Boston? Didn't you hook me up with that shit?
The Comedy Connection?
Yeah, Jim Loletta.
Oh, yeah.
All you guys were fucking supportive. I wanted to go to Boston. I always wanted to go to Boston and do comedy. They're like, we don't know about the connection, but we got Grill fucking 93.
Oh, yeah. You did that one with Dick Doherty. Was it Dick Doherty?
No,
it was Ronnie Sava.
Ronnie Sava.
Yeah, that guy owed me money for years.
It was 8 fucking weeks to get you a check. Exactly. While the guy had strip malls all over Boston. 8 fucking weeks.
Yeah.
The first time you worked, he overnighted you the check.
Yeah.
When you got home, it was there. You're like, wow, what a great guy.
Exactly.
After that, dog, it was. Remember, we did. That's right. One year we worked like a Thanksgiving. And it was Christmas. We still didn't get paid.
That's what happened. I remember I had a conversation with him. It was like the check was like 8 weeks late. Right, and so I'm calling him, and I'm like, I really need the money. So I was like, hey man, you think I'm going to be getting the check? He goes, well, look, we do checks every 60 days, so you should be getting it soon. And I'm like, 60 days? I did the thing, I did this like 8 weeks ago. You should be paying. And he goes, hey, you comics need to learn how to manage your money better. That's what he said. And I'm like, wait a second, you owe me money and I'm the asshole? You got to be kidding me. Like literally, he's like, well, if you manage your money better, you wouldn't be bothering me. It was crazy.
It was fucking. That's right. He would take 6. I remember
8
being in a
weeks
conversation with you Christmas, like the week before Christmas, going, "You get your fucking check yet?"
Yeah.
From Ron Sauer. But he's another guy that went down the tubes.
Exactly.
He's at home right now, fucking counting 20s, because that guy was a gazillionaire. He's the one that told me the joke because he was really Jewish.
Right. What did he tell you?
He was really Jewish, and he told me the joke about Jesus, a cardinal, and a rabbi sitting on a park bench, and not Jesus, but a priest, a rabbi, and a cardinal. And Jesus is walking in Central Park, and he goes up, and the priest sees him, and he goes, Jesus, help me, I have cancer. And he touches the priest, and he goes, I'm healed. And the cardinal's like, yeah, I got diabetes. And he touches him, I'm healed. And he goes, what can I do for you, Rabbi? And he goes, don't touch me, I'm on disability. I always got a kick out of that stupid fucking joke. But it's funny that I met you, we were both in the same position, and then one day you told me you were going to start writing. And I didn't even know what the fuck that was, And I know you had done a few gigs with Joe, like he was hosting something.
Right.
And then you got on the Man Show.
Yeah.
And the jobs were coming like once a year at that time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you got another Comedy Central show, and now you're head writing on the fucking Burn. Yeah. So I've seen the evolution, and it blows my fucking doors off.
Nice, man.
We're still here, bro.
Yeah, I know.
We're
it's been 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
We're still here.
I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Come and go. Stars.
It's amazing.
Guys that came into town that were, this guy's a unique writer. And fuck it. He went to the Improv, he seen the competition, and he said, fuck this. I'm going back to Oklahoma writing to the school paper.
No, it's hard, man. When I was a regular at the Comedy Store, and you remember this period in the Comedy Store history was like I had been doing comedy for probably 10 years before I was like a regular at the Comedy Store. So I wasn't really like too into the let's hang around all night thing for my spot. I'm like, I don't want to hang around this place all night. I just want to do my spot and get the hell out of there.
What year is this?
This is
99, 98, 2000.
2000-ish, maybe.
Right, yeah.
Maybe even a little later. Well, I'll tell you the story, and you can tell me when it was, because you probably remember the time, because I guess a little different now. But I remember I got like 3 weeks in a row. I got bumped by Eddie Griffin. I go, for my spot. Eddie comes in, does an hour and a half. Now there's nobody left in the showroom. Right. And I'm like, all right, well, this is just how it is. And then I just tell the guy, I'll just come back next week or whatever. And this one night, the nail in the coffin for me, one night I had a 9:15 set. And Paul Rodriguez had the 9 o'clock spot. So I show up, Paul's on stage, and it's like 9:20, he's still on. It's cool. The guy's been, doing comedy forever. I'm just excited I got an early spot. This is great. So about 9:24, he's about wrapping up, and Dice walks in, right? So he looks at me and goes, no way, it's not happening. So Dice goes up, does an hour, maybe a little over, does an hour. By the way, there were only maybe 25 people in the OR. It's like a Sunday night, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
So now Dice does an hour, and he does okay. He's doing his thing or whatever. And then so I'm like, he's coming, and I had somebody who was supposed to be watching me. That was the other thing. Somebody was supposed to come see me do my set for some audition thing or something. So now it's like 10:30, and I get ready to go. I'm like, all right, I'm going on. It's been an hour and a half, whatever. It's fine, 10:30, Eddie walks in, Eddie Griffin. So now I got bumped again. Eddie just looks at me and goes, sorry, man. I mean, that's how bad it was, is that Eddie said he was sorry, because it was like the third time he had bumped me in a row. He goes up, does like an hour and 20 or something like that. Then I finally get my spot, so it's like 11:45, and there's like maybe 5 people left.
And they've been beat the fuck up. Kicked in the stomach.
Beat the shit. I go up, I ate my own cock. I just sucked. It was terrible. And then I just said, this is it. I can't do this anymore. So I stopped going to the Comedy Store at that point. And I would, I still do spots, but I was just like, I just don't want to deal with I don't mind getting bumped. When you get bumped, like, every time you go, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather go do something that I'm booked at, and then it's just, you get, your time is your time,
Yeah. No, I mean, because I started at the Comedy Store, and when Dice would walk in, or when I was there, it was Damon Wayans. When you saw Damon Wayans, you'd be like, fuck, and then he would go behind the curtain and do like 45 minutes as the invisible comic behind the curtain, and you'd be like, what the?
Yeah.
And I'm totally eating it, because he's trying to experiment or something, and you're just like, fuck.
It was hard, and it's not like I totally respect that they made it to the level where they don't have to have a scheduled spot. Like, I totally get that, but it just was it was just too much. Where I was just like, I don't know, there's got to be an easier way to do it.
So, what was the first step you took to become a writer? Like, how did I think this way about comedy. There are 2 types of comics: people who then become writers,
right,
and then people who don't.
Right,
that's it.
Right, it's true.
And so.
And then the people that quit altogether.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you even start it? Because it's so overwhelming.
Well, it was honestly, it wasn't anything like, it was really out of necessity, where I was just sort of I was doing the road, and then, feature maybe some headline stuff on the road, and then let's say maybe you're lucky you're making $1,000 a week, and you're like, I'm not going to sell merch because that's for, whatever. This is before people gave over to the merch thing. Merch was for Jeff Dunham or somebody like that. Who was like,
for people
do you really
that
need
funny.
to sell? Yeah, exactly. Do you really need to sell the puppets after the show?
Yeah, if you had a headshot and merchandise, you were a hack.
Exactly. And now everybody does it. And now I'm I totally get that's the way to go, because at least you're controlling your own business by selling something, because they're not paying you any money. So Anyway, I'd go and after travel and all that other stuff, I'd come back and I was just like, always living on like a deficit. Like I had a little money when I moved to town, I had a little money in the bank, and like every year it'd be a little less. And I had Joe was nice enough like to get me. Joe Rogan was nice enough to get me on. Like he was doing some kind. I think it was like
Fridays.
It was some kind of award show, some kind of special or something back in like 2002 or something like that. And I went in and just like wrote some jokes for him, or wrote some copy or whatever, and did that, and that was nice. And then I got this job. Oh, this is where it kind of started for me, where I decided that it was something that I liked doing. In 2001, there was this guy, I ran into this guy at the Comedy Store. Do you remember guy? He used to run the room. What was the name of the place in Encino that did comedy? It was a club. It's not around anymore. You remember that place?
Yeah. I know what club.
Oh,
when we first moved
Do you remember?
Yes.
Up on Encino.
Yeah. It was around for a long time. I can't even remember the name of the place. But I used to have, it was a real club. They did comedy like, 5 nights a week or something like that. It was mostly showcase stuff or whatever. But it was a club with a name. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I can't. Huh. But anyway, there was a guy there who was like sort of open micer, but he ran the door and all this other stuff. And he, it was like one of those typical like Hollywood things. It sounds fishy. And it ended up being totally fishy, but it was like, hey, I met this guy, and he's starting like a production company. He's going to hire like 7 writers, and we're all going to get paid, and he's going to pitch these shows. He's going to sell these shows. He's got office space in Beverly Hills and the whole thing. And I'm like, sure, I'll meet this guy. Exactly, office space. I'm like, office space sounds great. Exactly. So I meet this guy. This guy's name was Billy Ray Valentine. So they introduced me to this guy, Billy Ray, and he was just this kind of like whatever, kind of like it was just this weird sort of situation. He's like, well, I'm going to hire these writers. I got investors, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, sure, whatever. If it happens, great. And then, we started meeting at like Lenny Schmidt's. Remember Lenny Schmidt? Lenny Schmidt's apartment, like out in the foyer. I lived over on Magnolia, and we were all like hanging out in the by the pool, and we were like writing and all this stuff, and we were not getting paid. So I was like, all right, well, this is something's gonna happen. I'm not gonna do this much longer. Then eventually he's like, okay, we're all moving into the office on Monday, and I'm like, okay, sure, this might happen. And the whole time Joe's like, you're never gonna get paid. You're wasting your time. Don't do this. Don't do this. So I show up, 9100 Wilshire Boulevard, Doheny and Wilshire. Same building, American Zoetrope, which I think is Coppola's company or something like that. I go up to the 3rd floor, wherever it is. There's an office. And we're in an office. And I was like, wow, this is for real. We hired like 7 writers. Guy didn't know what the hell he was doing, so we kind of like we're literally reading like Sid Field books on like screenplays and stuff. He's like, I got an idea for a movie about this, and you 2 guys write it. And we would literally go, okay. We were learning how to write screenplays, and then he would go and pitch them around town and stuff like that. We wrote some like sitcoms that like got some around town. And before you know it, we're like 6 months in, we're all getting paid. We're not making a lot of money, but everybody's getting paid. And he's got these like weird investors in Atlanta or something like that, like the mystery investors. And eventually what happens is the checks, were late. You know how this goes, right? Uh-huh. The check's late. It's the beginning.
It's the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end is the checks are late. Then the check bounces. It's late and it bounces. Then everybody starts getting agitated. A couple of guys had kids, and one of the guys did that George Costanza thing where he quit. He goes, fuck you, I'm out. And then he quit, and then he came in the next day and pretended he didn't quit. Because we were all like, hey, man, you can't quit. The money's going to be coming in. You got kids. You got to get paid. So he literally came in and pretended he didn't quit. And the guy's like, what are you doing here? He goes, I don't know, I'm working, And so what I thought was weird was like, why? Because this was a huge blowout between the guy who was running the place and this guy. And I'm like, why isn't this guy like for real fired? So eventually what we found out was he was paying us but he wasn't paying payroll taxes, anything like that. So the moment anyone applied for unemployment, they'd know that the payroll taxes weren't being paid, and the whole thing sort of started to implode. So eventually one day we all decided to not go in. And this is when there were a couple of red flags. One of the red flags was we should have known not work for a guy named Billy Ray Valentine, because we found out later the guy's from Philadelphia. That's the name of Eddie Murphy's character in Trading Places. We got 7 comedy writers. Nobody put 2 and 2 together for like 6 months that this guy had a fake name.
Did you know that GameFly is the smartest way to rent, play, and buy video games? With more than 8,000 titles, GameFly delivers the widest selection and availability of games for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Xbox 360, Wii, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and PSP without the hassles of late fees or trips to the video store. I mean, what's better than that? I'm a busy person. I have kids that want every video game ever made. You know what I did? Joined GameFly.
When I first got here, I answered an ad for sports writers. Same thing. It was on Wilshire Boulevard. And what they wanted you to basically do was write like the jingles for sports casters around the country. Like, I'm like, what? Yeah, we're going to start a company. We're going to get people who know sports, and you're going to write jingles for people to sell the radio. We'll do all the selling. All you got to do is come in, nice offices, Wilshire, across from that theater down there, like that theater where they do all the screenings.
Right.
White people. This is the real fucking deal. I get there, donuts, water cooler, desks. For fucking 6 weeks, these guys were paying us $20 an hour. I'm writing nothing. I know nothing.
Right.
I'm basically going to the store doing blow and showing them there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Nobody do nothing.
Right.
And for 6 weeks, they're paying us. Checks are fucking in. $600, $800 a week.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, this is a scam.
Yeah.
And sure enough, one day we go back down there, closed. I called one of the other guys who I just bumped into an audition about 3 weeks ago. We're like, remember that? The guy called like a month later. He was trying to get financing again. We'll be back up and running. That was 14 years ago. How many fucking movies, how many meetings have you got? Movies where they get the financing and my father owes the money. And Ari just did one where some kid, the father gave him $10 million for a fucking movie.
Really?
Really?
They were paying people like, and they had this kid.
Right.
Like, this is a grape that walked into town with a brand new fucking Amex card.
Right.
And they took this kid. They couldn't even finish the movie. This kid paid Lindsay Lohan $3 million for the day. Like, who paid? Like, he
What?
Oh my God!
Really?
They couldn't even finish. They called Ari back to get money back. Like, they realized that they paid Ari a lot too much.
Right.
And they called Ari back and said, "Listen, can you give us half the money back or start working for free?" Ari was like, "Absolutely not. They don't even have the money." They have Michael Clark Duncan. They have anybody who had troubles the last time. It was a movie, a spoof. You know which one I'm talking about? When I walked to the audition, I seen who the producer was. He was the booking agent for Maverick Agency, which everybody's a bum over there.
Right.
But the guy was a booking agent, and he called me with one gig. He was Dante's buddy. He was the booking comedy agent, and he called me with a Dante gig in Lancaster for $50 on a Friday night. In 6 months, that's the only comedy booking he got me. So when I went to do the meeting, to do the audition, I seen him. He came out. He's like, "I'm one of the producers on this. Fuck it." You know my motto: if the pork fried rice sucks, you got no reason to order shrimp and lobster sauce.
Right.
Fuck this. I just ripped up my fucking paperwork and left. And Ari booked it and said, "Yeah, bro, they're paying everybody like 10 times above scale." I'm not kidding you.
Right.
Like fucking day players were getting 10 grand.
Right.
They raped these people. They didn't have enough money to make the soundtrack, or whatever, editing.
Right.
They ran out of money. Done. And that happens constantly.
Right.
Constantly. And we don't even see it. We don't
No.
we see it, but we don't want to see it, no way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like the whole independent film thing. Anybody can make a movie if you got money. So it's just all running the scam of getting investors, getting back or financial backing, all that other stuff. Because once you have money, you know, you can shoot. But it's not, you know, I don't even know how it works. It's just to me, it's insane. You know,
I had a
the movie
friend who had a
businesses.
meeting with a mom that said, "I'll pay you $5 million to write a script for my daughter, but you got to make her a star." I mean, that shit happens in this town all the
like,
fucking time. You know?
Like Warner Brothers, like the old days.
Yeah, like, you know.
Well, that was the story with William Randolph Hearst and whoever his wife was. You know, it's the one that in Citizen Kane, is supposed to be the one that, you know, was the bad singer or something like that. Remember that character? So William Randolph Hearst had like a wife or a girlfriend. She was an actress. She's somewhat famous.
And that was they've made movies about it. Yeah, everything like that. Yeah.
And he had one of the stages built with like a water. I think there's one of the big stages, like next to Conan's stages, has like the infrastructure for a pool underneath that they did for some kind of crazy water battle scene or something like that. And Hearst paid to like redo the whole thing. So it's like, yeah, all you need is a sugar daddy. That's, you know, that.
So after that fucking debacle with the scam check, where'd you go from there?
Then I got
the Man Show.
Yeah, then I did the Man Show. I think I had about like $80 in my bank. I was about to leave town. I think like in 2003, I was about to leave town. I think I had about like $80 in my bank account. I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I've been here for 5 years. You know, this is just like not working out. And then I got a call when Joe was doing the Man Show and was, you know, nice enough to get me a meeting. And I got the call like, hey, we're meeting guys like today. Can you come down at like noon? You know, and it's like 11:15. So I was like, yeah, I'll come down. And I'm literally like writing my like pitches for like things they could do on the show. Like as I'm getting ready, I'm stopped at like, you know, stoplights. I'm writing down, we could do this, we could do this. And I just came down with like, you know, 10 ideas on like a piece of paper. And I go into the meet with Joe and Doug Stanhope and this guy Tom Giannis, who was the, you know, the head writer. And I'm just, you know, pitching ideas. And, you know, those guys, Doug, I didn't know Doug that well, but Doug like really responded to like a couple of them. A couple of them were things we ended up doing on the show. We had this one thing called Drunken Crossfire, which was basically like we take my pitch was nobody's more fun to talk to than a drunk about politics. So we go into like a bar at last call. We talk to the drunkest people we can find about politics, and we just you know shoot them all together and all that. And then somebody had the idea to make it like Crossfire, where we get 4 drunks. and Doug was like the moderator, and he played it really straight. And we set up like a desk with these guys, and we went into the bar. And you could see in the background the bar, people were throwing popcorn at each other. They were all like, you know, shit-faced. And so you could see all that going on in the background. And we found, like, literally did breathalyzers. And we like had checked everybody's blood alcohol content with breathalyzers, and we got the drunkest guys we could find. We had like blue blazers, so we literally just put them. They didn't fit. We had like a big like heavy guy was absolutely drunk, and he has this like blue blazer on that doesn't even fit, and he's just sitting there, and they're all drinking and they're all talking politics, and Doug is playing it like totally straight, like it's a news program, but they're just like out of their minds mumbling like whatever. And it was like really fun, and that was something like I pitched in the room, so like in my meeting. And so yeah, I pitched a couple of things, and you know, they were nice enough to give me a job, and I was like, okay, well, this is like a really good opportunity for me, so I'm gonna like work really this is a real go to work everyday job on a lot. I'm gonna work really hard. And I went in and I just like kept my nose down, and I just like they really threw me in it. Like they were like, okay, here's your script, and go out with the producer, and you know, you're gonna shoot it with this thing with Doug and all that, and then go into the editor, and then you know, edit the piece. And it's like I had never done any of this stuff, and literally I was just thrown right into the middle of it, because the head writer had come from Saturday Night Live, and that's how they did everything, is that as a writer you would produce your own pieces, because you would have sort of the creative vision behind it.
Then we went to Miami. Didn't we shoot pieces in Miami?
We did. I didn't go to that one. That was the was that the
boat races, the Cuban boat races or something like that?
Oh, they had a pool, right? It was a pool with a bunch of...
We never used none of that shit.
We never used it. No. It was like we had one side of the pool was America, and there was like a hot chick with Statue of Liberty, like in a bikini with the Statue of Liberty. The other side was Cuba. Oh, no. And there were all these rafts set up. Oh, no. It was basically a race. And then we had you were Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro.
He was dressed as Fidel Castro, yelling at people, and then we had like Border Patrol like shooting people with like with like water guns and stuff like that, trying to knock them up. It was ridiculous. Hard to believe it didn't make it, but that was like the stuff we did. It was all crazy stuff like that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And then from there you went to Mencia's?
I met a bunch of people there who kind of kept me working for a couple of years, like a bunch of writers. They had like, it was a really good staff. There was like Frank Sebastiano, who worked on like Beer. He wrote and directed Beer League with Artie Lang, and this guy Steve Lookner, who's from SNL, and Brian Posehn was my office mate, and Greg Fitzsimmons was there, and Ray
Eddie
James.
Bravo?
Eddie Bravo was there. That's right.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, Eddie Bravo
awesome.
was there. Yeah.
Joe had Eddie Bravo.
Wow.
He was there.
Wow.
He was like Joe's muse,
Yeah.
Eddie was there. And
I like Greg Fitzsimmons.
Yeah, Greg was awesome.
Yeah.
Super funny
Greg's
guy.
a great guy.
He had a great idea. We did a bit where it was like a dating service. It was like a dating service for men who have commitment problems. It was a dating service that matched men with commitment problems with women who were terminally ill. So it was basically you picked how long you wanted the relationship to last, and they find somebody.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy stuff like that. So we did a lot of stuff and on that. It was a great group of writers, and so they all like took care of me for like, I want to say a couple of years, and then I worked on the Mind of Mencia. I met Robert Morton, who worked on the Letterman show, and they hired me to do the Mind of Mencia. I did that for 4 years.
He's also a very nice gentleman.
Yeah, very nice.
Absolutely. And it was great. And so I did that for 4 years, and at the end, I always kind of like looked around and was like, okay, what's not getting done? And I would kind of see like, oh, nobody's really, like taking the lead on field pieces or something like that. And then I would, go, oh, I'll go out and shoot, and then I'll go to the edit bay afterwards because I learned how to do all that. And so, I got like promoted, and at the end I was a head writer, so I did that like the last year there, and then along the way I got hired on the roasts. I did a lot of I've done about 7 of those roasts.
Shit.
Yeah. The first one was
Oh,
William
wow.
the William Shatner one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they hired me in for like they hire in for the day and then see how you worked out, and then they kept like bringing me back. So I did like the last week on that, and then I did Flavor Flav after that, and I did Bob Saget, Larry the Cable Guy, Joan Rivers, Charlie Sheen. I did Charlie Sheen one. So yeah, I would get like that. It was kind of a steady gig, like once a year.
So
I
that's
do
how
the
you
roast.
got your relationship with Jeff Ross in a way.
I think I met Jeff doing stand-up years ago, but like that was definitely one of the reasons why they called me in to work on The Burn, because I had done a lot of these roasts, so like The Burn was going to be like a roasty show, so they called me in because they knew that I had like head writing experience and I had done the roast and stuff like that. And I didn't work on the Ross pilot. I worked on this pilot for Rob Delaney, from Twitter, the guy from Twitter. We did a really funny guy. So I was working on that pilot when they were doing the pilot for The Burn, and then the Delaney pilot didn't get picked up, so I was available, and then they called me to come in and interview for The Burn, and I got that job, and so that's how I didn't know Jeff super well at that point. I just kind of went in and met with him and the other producers and stuff like that, and then they hired me to do the jobs.
As a writer's standpoint, how many hours a day when you're by yourself do you usually write, like in between jobs?
In between jobs?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like working out or whatever. You kind of have to carve out time in your day because you know how busy it is. It's like.
Well, that's what I was
It's the
thinking,
hard
knowing
thing.
you were coming over here, was like, I was thinking about questions like that, like how do you self-start? Like, because if you're a writer, there's times when you organize your own time and it's really hard to,
Well, working on a staff is easy because you basically get assignments. So the head writer, you may be in an office and just the writer's assistant shows up and says, hey, write this. And all day they're just coming down with assignments and you're just turning them in as the day goes along. And that's great because you have somebody basically telling you what to do and when to have it done by. Because setting a deadline really does help, for me at least. So it's really easy to get kind of like you gotta kind of prioritize. And some people write better at night. Some people write better at like 3:00 in the morning. Some people write better first thing in the morning. So I kind of the hardest thing is to figure out what you're gonna write about, But once you figure that, so I spent a lot of time procrastinating, a lot of just where I'll be on the internet, like looking at news stories or whatever, and just until something sort of like clicks with me, and I'll go, oh, that's a good idea for maybe a screenplay, or that's a good idea for a TV series, or that's a good idea for a joke, or that's a good idea for like an essay. Sometimes I'll write like pieces that I perform, like written pieces, like I have a friend of mine does an essay show, and I'll just have some maybe it's something I write on Twitter, and I'll go like, oh, wow, like I had this idea. There was like a music. The theme was for the essay show was music, so I was like, well, what am I going to write about? And then one night I had a couple bottles of wine. You ever drunk download? You know what I mean? Where you just like downloading shit off iTunes, and then the next morning you're like, what the hell was I doing? Well, this night I was downloading like Harry Chapin songs. You know Harry Chapin? So I was downloading Harry Chapin, and I'm singing along because I remembered all the songs from when I was a kid. And my girlfriend at the time, was my wife now, comes in and she goes, these are the most depressing songs I have ever heard. I go, no, they're not. These songs are great. And I'm listening to them, and then I start to really, like, you ever listen to a song and you're just saying it's got a catchy tune or something like that, but then you realize how sad the song really is. So I started to think about it, and then I was like, well, the next morning I was like, oh, well, there has to be one song that he wrote that wasn't depressing. So I wrote this piece about the search for the one not depressing moment in a Harry Chapin song. And so I listened to all his songs, and I wrote about each one of the songs, and every song was sad. Like there's the one that I was like, 30,000 pounds of bananas, right? 30,000 pounds, is that the song? 25 pounds? 30,000 pounds of bananas. That song, that has to be a happy song. What could be sad about a truck driver driving 30,000 pounds of bananas someplace? Well, I'm listening to the song. The guy gets decapitated. Like the truck, he loses control of his car, of his truck. The song ends up with this guy getting decapitated, and it's this silly song. And I was like, everything this guy wrote was sad. So I did this whole analysis of it, and I finally found one moment that wasn't sad. So that was a piece that I wrote, kind of roasting basically Harry Chapin and all his sad music. And I found one moment that I thought was like uplifting, and that was sort of the end of the piece. So sometimes I'll just have an idea and I'll do something like that, and that will just be like something I perform. It won't be something I'll sell or something.
Do you enjoy the writing though? Like when you get in a writing jag like that, are you the happiest you can be, or is it like, fuck, I gotta do this?
Well, I hate, like, I don't know about you guys, but like when I write, it's like as I'm going through it, you have to turn off the part of your brain that's like, this sucks. You know what I mean? Like some people,
it always sucks, right? It always sucks.
It feels like the process is like, this sucks, this isn't funny, why am I doing this? And what works for me is that like I have to shut that off and go like, okay, for the next like hour and a half, I'm just gonna put stuff on page. I'm just gonna write. I'm not gonna judge it. I'm literally just gonna write, and I'm not even gonna worry about how it's all gonna fit together. I'm just gonna write jokes about, sad music, or Harry Chapin. Maybe I'll look him up on Wikipedia. I'll write some roasty jokes about the guy. I'll find something interesting, and I'll just keep writing jokes, and I won't read what I've written until, like, once I'm done with that, I'll walk away, and then maybe come back the next day and read it. And even an hour later, you'll be like, oh, that was funny, that was funny, that was funny, that was funny. Now you've got maybe 10 jokes that you can kind of hang a piece on, And so then you sort of go like, okay, what is it that I want to say? Like, what's sort of like the point I'm trying to make? How can I link all these things together? And then I start sort of outlining it, and then it kind of comes together pretty quick at that point, and then you just do punch up. You literally like, I need a joke here, I need a joke here, I need a joke here. And then you specifically sort of punch up those areas. And so that's how I work. So something like that, some people can knock it out in like couple of hours. Sometimes for me it'll take, like, I'm a little harder on myself, so I'll have something that's okay in a couple hours, but then I'll work a couple hours more on it, and then I'm like, okay, this is ready to go perform.
When you first started, was there any time where you were in a writing room where you were amazed at the writers in the room where you were like, whoa, I'm going to learn a lot from this person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Like on the burn, the room, the roast, the way the writer's room is run is similar to the way the burn room is run, which is basically we'll pick a topic or something like Jeff will send me emails. Jeff stays up late, so he'll send me an email before he goes to bed and say, hey, everybody should think about this in the morning, and he'll have a fun, one idea he had that was really great. I remember getting it in the morning was Taylor Swift has a new song. It's the We're Never Gonna Ever Go Out Again, that song.
Never be back together.
Yeah, we'll never get back together again, and it's about her and Jake Gyllenhaal, I guess, something like that. So he's like, let's play the song and then roast her, because if she only had bad relationships, if she only had good relationships, she wouldn't have a career. That was basically the point. The point of view was like, hey, if you didn't get dumped every other week, you wouldn't have anything to write about. So that's basically was great for me, because I'm like, okay, that's the premise. The target's Taylor Swift. And then I had the writers go, okay, everybody go and write for whatever, 20 minutes, half an hour on this, along with other stuff. And then it all gets put together into it all gets emailed in, and the writer's assistant puts together into a document. And a lot of times, sometimes we'll have writers read their own jokes in the room, but sometimes I like it to be really anonymous, where it's sort of like everybody just writes so they can, if they fail, it's okay, because it's anonymous. And it all gets put up on a monitor, and then you just read the jokes. So I'll read the jokes, or somebody else will read the jokes, and you'll just go, that's funny, okay, that's a good area. Or people in the room will start pitching out a fix on a joke or something like that. And then you take the best stuff, and you're like, all right, well, all we need are 5 jokes, and we've got, 10, and then, Jeff will go, I like these, and that's what we end up doing. But I'm always amazed by how great the material is from all the writers, because we have such a good writing staff. It's just so many funny people. And at the roast, it's like that, too. It's just you just laugh, all day. It's just, a really great thing. I've been on shows where it wasn't like that. But on those shows, it's at the burn, I laughed. I got great laughs all day, because the people I was working with were really funny,
What's your ideal situation? Like if ABC came to you, or one of the big networks, what would you really want to write on? A comedy or a drama at this point in your life?
The sitcom thing always seems interesting, but it just, that world feels like it's really hard to tell it's like improv. You're on stage and you got a trunk full of costumes or a hat, or you got a banjo or whatever, and it's make something out of this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what a sitcom is. It's hard, right? As a comic, you want to kind of go and be free, and you can talk about anything you want in stand-up comedy on stage. You can literally go, today I'm going to talk about my kids, today I'm going to talk about, speeding ticket I got, whatever you want to talk about, whatever your point of view is, because you're creating that world in somebody's mind. But on a sitcom, you have that trunk. The trunk contains the actors that you have to use. There's certain actors you have to use more than other actors. They'll say, well, has to be an episode about this guy. We blew the money on this episode where we went to Cancun, so we can only use the sets that we have. So the trunk becomes, it's hard. It's really hard work. To me, that's what I like about writing on The Burn, is we're just writing about what's in the news. So the trunk is pretty big, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff. Plus, you're just Jeff's up there telling jokes. We don't need a crazy set. We don't need anything really. Sometimes we'll go okay, today we're going to go roast, bouncers at clubs or something like that. So you have to have that specific box. But for the most part, it's very freeing. So I like what I'm doing right now, because to me, the sitcom thing seems hard. It seems very restrictive and all that. The screenplays seem a little easier, but even then, that business is brutal, and it's all about how much money you have to spend. It's sort of you got $500,000, you got $2 million, you got $10 million, but we gave $8 million to Bruce Willis. You know what I mean?
If you were to give a young comedian advice who had been doing it 5 years,
right, to be a writer,
to be a writer or how to get in the business, yeah, but maybe more angling on the writer side. How would you recommend they do that?
Well, I only know...
Because it's different now than when you started, so,
yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, it's a lot different. I mean, it really depends on what... I can only give advice on really comedy variety, which is what I do, which is basically like shows like late night shows like The Burn, shows like, you know, The Man Show is a comedy variety show. So what I always tell people is, you know, if you want to write for like a late night show or something like that, then you should be writing jokes every day. You should learn how to write a topical jokes. You should be reading the newspaper, writing jokes every day. Use your Twitter feed to test them out. You know, that's one of the greatest things about Twitter is you can just put your stuff out there. You can kind of see what hits, what doesn't hit with people. Try to have like an idea, like just give yourself like, today I'm just going to write down 3 ideas, whether they're good or not. And you do that for a month where you're like, different things like jaywalking. You know, something like, oh, the host goes out and talks to people about this, or here's a game that you could play in the audience. Like Jimmy Fallon has those great games, like the Wheel of Carpet Samples and iPhone roulette and stuff like that, or iPhone, whatever those things are. Those are amazing ideas. And if you come up with 3 a day, after a month you got 90 ideas. You only need 9 good ones to get a job. You know, in terms of to have a good packet. Mm-hmm. So you need to write a good packet. It's got to look professional. It's got to catch people's attention. It's got to be concise, because like for example, on The Burn, I read 115 submissions. Each one was probably between 5 and 10 pages long. So I read everything. It's all jokes, lots of funny people. I read every single page because it's bad karma for me to not read every single page, but I knew within the first half a page if somebody knew what they were doing. Like, if you don't have a great joke in your first 5 jokes, like you're saving it for the end, it's not like stand-up where you want your big closer. Yeah, you always have to have a good opener. I mean, stand-up, it's a good idea to have a good opener. I mean, a lot of people don't, but, you know, anyway, you need that thing to catch your attention. So don't put it towards the end. So I kind of would know almost immediately, like, okay, this person doesn't really know what they're doing. They're a little green, you know. So I would always tell people to put their strongest stuff, like, at the top. But a lot of it is just, like, don't tell yourself, like, I'm going to sit down and write this today, because it's not going to happen. But if you say, like, I'll write a little bit of this today.
A page a day?
A page, 3 ideas, whatever it is. Mitch Hedberg, I remember him, like, he would, like, write a joke or 2 a day, and it would go around his head all day. He would, like, rewrite it as he was walking around, like, all day. And then he would go and do that, and that would be, like, a great joke, and he would go try it out and stuff like that.
Any books that really help a young writer?
For comedy variety, there isn't too much. Well, I mean, in general, like, joke writing, I mean, it's kind of old school, but it's, like, probably the best sort of, like, nuts and bolts of it is Gene Perrette.
Gene Perrette. He's got a good workbook and stuff like that.
The Comedy Writer's Workbook was, like, probably the best thing I read. It was a little old school, but it was, like, really...
It was the nuts and bolts.
It was the nuts and bolts.
What they were doing in 1960.
Exactly.
But, you know what? I appreciate that writing more. That's why I bought that book.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the end of The Honeymooners, there's 3 writers.
Right.
It's 2 writers and Jackie Gleason.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And then you watch Saturday Night Live, and they got 19 writers.
Yeah.
And they do 2 minutes of funny material. And you watch you know, I always base it off The Honeymooners. Brilliant comedy things. The $55,000 question. When he inherited the fortune, it was a fucking bird.
He wouldn't rehearse.
He
refused to rehearse. He refused to rehearse. He would just come on, and he didn't know his lines a lot of the time or whatever, but he was so funny, and everyone around him was funny. That they could yes-and him, you know what I mean? And just sort of keep the show on track. And that was live. It was crazy.
It is pretty amazing, right? Because to go live is so much pressure.
Oh my God!
And live with no cuts. It was run quick. I think it was something really fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because I watched the making of some episodes. It wasn't like they do it today. This was, if he rubbed his stomach, that meant he was going to improvise.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
yeah,
really?
He had a lot of signals. Yeah. You know, he had a lot of signals. You know, I was watching The Toy the other day. The Toy was on in the afternoon. And it's amazing to see Gleason and Pryor together. And I read a Gleason biography where they were on the tour, and Richard Pryor was smoking a joint like a savage. And Jackie Gleason's like, that's not how you smoke a joint on the set. Give me that fucking thing.
And he
was smoking it, but he's like, you're smoking like a gentleman, dog. You can't smoke like an animal all your fucking life. I mean, just to see those two. And what do you do when you have, what do you write for that? You know, what do you...
For like the honeymooners?
Well, no, even like that. I mean, what do you do when you have two powerhouses?
Oh, I don't... I mean,
it's something. I always tell Felicia, trains, planes, and automobiles. What was Steve Martin thinking?
Right.
When he got the script, and they'll say, "Oh, are you thinking the opposite? Fucking that tank of comedy."
Right.
What are you gonna do? You're like, hey, I could duel this guy, or I could do something different. And that's. I've always been intrigued by that.
I think it's amazing. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. Like, writing for somebody like that, it's they're almost looking for. Some people look for specifically look for jokes, but some people are just looking for you to just sort of nudge them into an area.
Guide them into the direction.
Like they're like, I thought this was funny, and they'll just tell you something that happened to them, and then you're sort of like, oh, okay, and then you a lot of it just comes out of conversation, and once you nudge them or they find that area, they just start going, and you know, funny people are just funny people. They don't need a lot of help, you know. You just need to kind of nudge them in that area. Unlike, you know, but most of what I do, like I said, is like jokes. So it's like writing jokes for people, and you, it's almost like it's what they fall back on. Like when you go out, like when we go out in the field, you always have jokes for something that might happen out in the street, somebody you might meet for like whatever bit you're doing. But what you really want is that organic moment where something like incredible happens. You know, we did this one which was Jeff was on the Segway, and he was like harassing people. He was roasting people that parked in handicap spots, but they didn't have placards. Mm-hmm. So his whole thing, we have a thing called Public Enemy, and they were like public enemies. So he would go and he would roast people, and some of it were jokes that we had prepared beforehand. But then like he met this dude in a wheelchair. This guy was a quadriplegic, and he had, you know, like the straw, like to steer and move around, and they ended up like racing, like on the Segway. So there's a great shot of like Jeff racing this guy in the wheelchair on the Segway and stuff like that. And that's like an organic moment. You don't know like that's going to happen when you get out there. And then when we got back, I think we did some, like the graphics guy had a car come in and hit Jeff on the Segway. He like you know, basically ran him over. So you come up with a bit like that. But yeah, you plan. But then when you get out there, you want it to be organic.
Absolutely.
Because that's when funny people be funny. They're not just
all the stars
parrots.
have to get aligned. When you see a great show, it's the writers and the actors coming together.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like when people say it's a great show first year. You really got to see it the third year.
Right.
That's when they're really
sure.
Like Modern Family.
Modern
I don't
Family,
really watch it.
Yeah.
But I heard the writing and everything has come together. It's so weird how, you know, every time you're on the road by fucking Saturday, you're like, I got to quit this shit.
Right.
And become a writer. So one of my dreams is always to be Hemingway. I didn't want to write TV with those fucking momos or write a movie. You know, I like.
Are you calling our guest a momo?
No.
I believe you just did.
You know, last night was. Listen,
I don't know what that means.
Last night I was watching Last night I was watching the Emmys.
Sure.
And they had a bit in the beginning. Some bit where he comes out with eyebrows.
Yeah, sure.
Between us, it was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my fucking life, okay? But you have to figure that ABC pays like top comedy writers. Like, oh my God, he is so brilliant to come in and write that piece of shit for 30 seconds with eyebrows and, you know, 5 fucking and then whatever. And you look at that and you go, really? As a stand-up comic that busts his fucking hump every night and goes up in front of people and fights, these are the fucking momos. They paid 30 G's to write this. They're fueled by ego. And I gotta say this because it's the fucking truth. You watch half this shit and you're like, who the fuck
now he's calling all the people like you momos.
Listen, my name's been on stuff I haven't been particularly proud of.
I take respect to the fact that we've been doing comedy for 20 fucking years.
Right.
And we've done rooms, we've done the Aku. Let me tell you something. I'll take 9 of those writers that wrote that fucking thing last night, throw them up at the Aku in Worcester, and see how long it would take till somebody throws one of those zombies at their fucking head with that shit. Okay? You know that. You go to the Aku, you better bring that motherfucker because they'll stab you. The waiter will stab you. The waiter will go, oh, what? And cut you. So as a comic, you get insulted because I'm expecting the highest fucking quality.
Nothing's going to be funnier. I mean, listen, it's like what I said. It's the trunk. It's like you, in your mind, as a stand-up, you're on an empty stage, you're creating a picture in the audience's mind, all that shit. You can do whatever you want. With that sketch in particular, literally, here's your trunk. Okay, we've got 8 actresses that agreed to do this bit with Jimmy, all right? We got to get whatever the idea is past 8 publicists whose job it is to kill comedy. Yeah. All right? It is. What they'll literally, it's like, oh, so-and-so would love to do a comedy bit. And then you send them something, oh, well, we can't have her do that. You know, that happens all the time. So you've got 8 actresses that all agreed to do this. They want it, the producers want Jimmy with a bunch of actresses. I guarantee they shot that yesterday. Or the day before yesterday.
Oh, sure.
Those are people who flew in because you got to get all those people in the room. Okay, so we've got an hour.
And then we got the host. But the other thing is,
right.
Listen, my point
Who's doing a late night show.
Right. They cut it.
Who's got a full-time job.
Well, they had the fucking other guy, you know, the guy with the wig on fucking, he's got the Kardashian show. He's the host of American Idol.
Seacrest.
That's a wig?
Who, Seacrest?
I heard that's a redo. That's a redo.
Really?
That's a redo. So, you know, that's a cut, redo. But my point is they had 9 people or 10 people. They cost
credited.
Just in payment.
Right.
If they each got scale. Let's pretend.
Right. It's a lot of money.
10 fucking guys. Not one comic except for the chick that showed up later and gave him the pants. Which,
Ellen. Yeah.
But besides that, I mean, it was, to me, I looked at it, I'm like, that's $100,000 wasted that you'll never see again. And even the people that are there, like, if they laugh at, like, I wish I was walking around to see who really laughed at that.
I would love to see you at the Emmys.
To go up to them and go, you really laughed at that? Break down the funny to me in that sketch.
We need to bring you down. You got to talk to that producer.
And they would all be giggling, telling you we're all laughing because the rest of these fucking sheep are fucking laughing. Not to mention the fat guy that's got the sign that says laugh. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine if we just
They have a fat guy, they don't have an applause sign?
Whatever the fuck. Laugh. You know, and can you imagine if that was at our comedy shows? That's why it bothers me.
Hard.
You know, I'm sorry.
It's hard. It's on at 4:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday.
Oh, God.
It's 4:00. Who's watching the Emmys anyway?
Oh,
it's 4:00 in the afternoon.
I know. I didn't even watch it. Why are you watching it?
Yeah, I was like, why are you watching? I watched it.
My wife was fucking tired.
Yeah.
It's 7:45. We're both sitting there waiting for a fucking gun to go off, trying to watch TV. You got 500 channels.
Right.
And also, let's watch the fight. You know, New England was going head to head with Baltimore.
Right.
I was watching that fucking game. Those Baltimore motherfuckers ain't fucking around.
No.
And next thing you know, I go, let me just watch the. I mean, this is our business.
This is how
let's
you get
watch our business.
This is how you got tricked.
So I go to this fucking thing. They got the eyebrows. He just went in for whatever. Really? What?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
It's like those award shows, by the way, are like I've done probably 5 of them. They are the hardest to do because look, I totally get what you're saying. The problem is so if you get a bunch of let's say you have 6 writers. They had a lot of writers on the Emmys, but you got 6 writers and they're like, Rainn Wilson wants to do a bit. And so you go, oh great, we'll do, and you come up with 5 ideas that, you know, maybe 2 are crazy ideas he'll never do, but hopefully if it got to him, maybe he'd do it. And then the other 3 are you have to get through a very, very like conservative executive producer, the person that has to review it. Then you got to go to the talent bookers. The talent bookers are like, I can't ask Rainn Wilson to, you know, show up bare-assed or whatever your crazy idea is. So then it gets kicked back again. Then it finally gets to the publicist, and then the publicist is the person who says no before Rainn Wilson even sees it. Rainn Wilson may want to say...
And now we got to make sure...
I know.
Because Rainn Wilson has never done a funny thing in his fucking life but smoke a cigarette on that fucking office. So now we got to make sure he's funny. But at the end of the fucking week, I got Brody Stevens sitting at home talking about depression.
Right.
And this Rainn Wilson worthless, because that office, they got to get a Jew to light that on fire. If anybody should burn a building down, it's that fucking office. I watched that shit on an airplane, and I almost jumped the fuck off. You understand?
What do you like watching?
Bar Rescue.
Downton Abbey?
I like Bar Rescue. I like fucking Restaurant, whatever, Impossible.
Oh, you like a reality shows.
I like those are the 2 reality shows I'll watch. I'll watch Breaking Bad, which is
Breaking
brilliant.
Bad is amazing.
I watch Sons of Anarchy, which is brilliant.
So you don't watch comedy?
Network, you try.
I know.
Chris McGuire as a comic, you try. You see, listen, before I leave my house at 8 o'clock at night to do whatever hellhole I'm doing,
right.
I go to see who's on Letterman.
Right.
I go to see who's on.
Just to make yourself mad?
Just to make me. Just see a comedic guest.
Touche, Chris McGuire. Touche.
You don't know how happy I am when I go and it's Chris McGuire as the comic.
Sure, that'll never happen.
I don't watch Comics Unleashed. They should burn that fucking show down. And then you got Kimmel, so I watched Kimmel, see who the stand-up is.
Yeah.
And then from there I go to Showtime to see if any specials are on, so I can applaud my fucking comrades.
Right,
at least give them 5 minutes, even though I know Montoya's producing them, and that guy's the king of laugh tracks from 1980. He buys them cheaper from the 80s, the laugh track.
Right.
So if you listen to the laugh track on the Showtime special, it's the same one that Maud had on hers, but they just save it. So you try to put up with
The
that.
dead people laughing.
Yeah, the dead people laughing. Tom Arnold, he's getting no laughter, but the people are dying and their heads aren't moving.
Yeah.
I know when I go do a fucking show and people laugh, they move their heads and they clap. Everybody was like, looking at Tom Arnold. I'm looking at this special going, should I shoot myself now or later? No. So
that's a nightmare.
Listen, I want to watch comedy and fucking laugh. But then you have the UCB crowd.
Right.
That oh my God. Oh, it's so brilliant. They're writing. Go fuck your mother. I'm still waiting for Arrested Development and that bullshit. I got 4 momos sitting there still writing Arrested Development. And watch, it's going to come back as a dud because it's too much thought. Comedy has to come together. It's the star, it's the actor, not fucking ego. And, Chuck, it's a brilliant show. They cancel it, and now I got 20 white kids jumping up and down in Burbank. Conan, who watches Conan at 1 in the fucking morning? Who? Not you. Well, and also they're going to cancel them, and I got a bunch of kids jumping up and down, lighting up Burbank. Why?
Right.
When was the last time something funny came out of fucking there late night?
What about Louis? You watch Louis?
I love Louis.
Yeah.
Love Louis.
He's doing his own thing.
The new FX fucking thing.
Which one? Kamal Bell?
Charlie Sheen. I can't. Kamal is good. Whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The fucking English guy. They should shoot him.
Which one? Oh, Russell Brand.
They should shoot him and Katy Perry for marrying that dirty motherfucker and light him on fire. And then put him under the fucking prison. Then put him under the fucking prison for fertilizer. Because that's not
just
funny.
Telling jokes.
But I got Brody.
I
got Brody Stevens. I got Brody Stevens at home.
Yes, Brody.
I got Brody Stevens
Brody's
at home.
A very funny guy.
Russell Brand is doing a fucking show.
I personally don't get the Russell Brand thing.
No, nobody does.
I don't want to kill him and stuff him under a building as fertilizer.
It's a bunch of 13-year-old fat chicks that want to suck an English dick, so they realize they got no fluoride.
That's not even the good English dick to suck. If you're going to choose an English dick, that wouldn't be the English dick. It'd be Daniel Craig or something.
When he took that dick out in front of Katy Perry, she almost had a heart attack.
That's pretty gross.
It was missing a tooth. That poor fucking. His dick was even missing a tooth.
Something jumped from that dick. Yeah, not good.
Well,
I want to know what I'm sorry, Chris, for going on a tangent, but
I love it.
By the way, I love when you go on a tangent.
I like the tangents. It's much more. You don't want to hear my nonsense.
No, you sit there and you go, 3 years ago. Listen, who didn't grow up on Saturday Night Live?
Right.
And even then, I used to go home and go, if it wasn't for these animals, these fucking guys would be weak. Because when they were doing Blow in the 80s, those motherfuckers were writing their own sketches as they went.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I go home. Again, I want to support Saturday Night Live. We're doing a couple bumps of coke. And it was the fat guy, Horatio Sancher. And they're doing a bit. I never forget this. They did a bit. I told you about this, about the snake biting the guy in the dick.
I think I saw this.
And he gets on the phone. He goes, it looks like you're going to die. That's the first joke I heard when I came from Cuba.
Oh, yeah,
1960.
Oh, suck it out?
Suck it out.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
never forget
waiting it's an old
there.
Joke, yeah.
I'll never forget waiting there and seeing the list of writers at the end.
Yeah.
That's a scroll of my felonies.
Yeah.
That's what my felony convictions look like.
Those are all your victims?
And I'm looking at this going, so 19 people took to write this? Really, dog? Really?
Well, only one person wrote it, but yeah.
And who sold it?
Yeah.
You just told me you had to meet with 10 people to get a head writing job.
I know.
Who sold that joke? So that joke went through 10 people and nobody said, Jesus, I've heard this joke in 1960 in New York City on a playground. It makes you want to think. But Brody Stevens, Felicia Michaels, and Joey Diaz don't have a writing fucking job. Put me on there for 5 minutes.
Well, do you want? I mean, would you want to sit in there? You wouldn't want to sit in a room for 10 hours a day. Would you want to do that?
Question. Listen, this is why I love a guy like Joe Rogan, because not then, but Joe Rogan now would go pay Joey, sit him in the corner, and just give him weed and just let him loose. Put a little cam on him, and when you guys come in and say, yeah, well, we have this idea about Jimmy Kimmel putting makeup on his eyes, I throw a fucking bottle at you.
Was that the white writer voice?
Yeah. I have this idea to put Botox in Jimmy Kimmel's
It kind of sounded like your voice a little bit.
I watched that last night, and I feel for the youth of America. I feel, I want to be Hemingway.
The youth of America,
you want to be Hemingway? Well, why don't you be Hemingway?
I've been trying.
You need a blog. You can be like.
I've been writing for the last.
You're dressed
3
like
years.
Hemingway right now.
Oh,
That's
please.
true. Yeah.
All I need is a tattoo.
You just need a drink in the morning. That's all you need is a bottle of scotch.
I could never have a fucking drink in the morning. But I smoke weed. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's weird. I bought a book for years. I was like every other Momo in this town. Samuel French paid the lights on me for years because I go in there and didn't understand that writing is doing.
Right.
I always thought that reading a book was going to make me a writer. And then
it helps,
It helps,
Yeah.
but you got to get down. You got to get down.
You got to.
You came to get down like the Irish. They came to get down. They came to get down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump to get down. You got to get down like the Irish. So I started writing, and you learn. And right now I'm writing a book with an editor, and you learn.
Oh, that's great.
But I wrote that book not by Russ Perot. I was going to say by Russ Parrott. Whatever he wrote.
Gene Parrott?
No, not Gene Parrott. Fuck, I'm confusing the names now. Not The Art of War, but The War of Art.
Oh, The War of Art. I read that. It's a good book. Yeah, it's a good book. Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes.
It's about resistance. Everybody's putting up. That's the big thing in everything. That's the big thing in everything. Is like, what are you doing to get? You're in your own way. You know what I mean? You're always in your own way. Is to get out of your own way. That's the whole thing. It's like, I'm too tired, or I got to go do this, or whatever. You kind of have to carve out time for yourself. Some people are just are able to kind of go through their days and just sort of like, they get a half hour, whenever, and then it's just brilliant stuff. That happens to some people, but for most people, it's like, it's a job. You got to sit down.
Is it just as important the personality you are in a writer's room along with your writing? Is that just as important?
Well, there's like the people that are good in the room that like, look, you need your workhorses. You need the people like, you're like, okay, well, these guys I know, or these writers I know, if I sent them off with an assignment for a half hour, they could come back with really good stuff, as long as it's a good premise, Then you have people that, maybe they're, maybe there's a lot of balls. You know what I mean? There's not as many strikes. There's a lot of balls. There's foul balls. Whatever. But they get a couple of, they may get something absolutely genius that no one else will think of, or a couple of bits like that. Or they're the guy in the room who's just funny, who's like helping out the jokes. He's also keeping everybody in the room laughing because it's easy. You're in there all day. It is. No, all day.
You gotta get me the next joke.
I will.
I'll send you
Absolutely.
some notes and we'll get this.
I'll put you. But you know what? Listen, there's a lot to be said for give the guy some weed and send him off into the corner. Because if that's how that guy works, great. That's terrific. You can't have a whole room full of people like that. It would be kind of hard to. You need somebody kind of type A to pull it together, and you need a few people that work well in the morning, and some people that don't mind staying late, and you need a couple of young people so that you're not to keep you honest and you don't pitch out old stuff, or I don't know what blankety blank is, in some reference. Oh, I guess that's an old reference. Let's not do it. You need a mix of people, but you do need that personality. It's always good to have that personality of somebody that's just cracking up the room.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I would say like after about 7:30, people get real tired and nothing's fun. I also say, sometimes it's like on the burn we churn out so many jokes. Maybe let's say after you've read 500 jokes, you kind of have to stop reading jokes and stuff's just not.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
You get blind. I call it joke blind. You're joke blind. You don't even see what's funny after 500 jokes. You got to take breaks. You got to, it's a certain point in the day where you just gotta recharge. I like everybody to go home early. Unfortunately, a lot of times there's just stuff that comes up at the last minute, and you're like, we gotta write this because we're shooting it tomorrow or whatever.
Thank you so much for coming.
I hope this helped.
No, it's really cool.
No, I love this.
And honestly, I see all these classes around at all the clubs, like learn how to write your packet, and I want to take a class like that, but I feel embarrassed.
Yeah. I got 8 people. I'm gonna listen to one of that fucking.
But still, you want to know, like you can look up how to write a writing package, but sometimes you just want to talk to a person that's actually fucking doing what you want to do, and you just want to ask simple questions like that, like how does a writing room work, and what kind of personality should you have? You know what I mean? Like it's been very.
Well, you should just always be yourself and all that other stuff. And as far as like, I could tell you all about writing packets. It's not It's really not a mystery. The main thing is just not getting discouraged and just doing it a little bit at a time. The best one I ever had took I probably spent about 2 weeks on because I was working at another job, and afterwards I knew that job was going over, and I always try to get another job, and so I worked for an hour or so a night on it for 2 weeks, and at the end I had a good package. So sometimes you just have to, you just have to do it.
Chris McGuire, I don't like a lot of people. I really love you.
I love you too, man.
I'm very proud of what you've done, and
Thanks,
I watched the whole thing, and
well, what would you guys
do? I have my family, dog. I love my family, and you're fucking definitely my Irish
man.
brother.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah, we
I get this. You look a Cuban Truman Capote today,
That's
so
right.
which is good.
I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Irish.
All right, thanks, man. No, thanks for having me.
What's up, beautiful? What do you got going on?
Well, I would just like to say to the listeners, if you've liked today's topic, please go to iTunes and leave a nice little review, so that helps keep us going on the hot list. And if you're thinking about buying anything on Amazon, do you buy stuff on Amazon?
I do all the time. I'm a Prime member.
Okay,
use that fucking thing, all right?
We have a banner on our website at www.beautyandthebeast.com. If you click on that banner, it'll just kick you right to Amazon, and it's kind of an accounting, and we get like a penny.
I need a banner for porn.
I was just thinking, I want a banner for my pussy. Like, if someone would touch it and I'd feel
Click on that. There you go.
Click on this. $3 and shit. For an extra 8, you scratch and sniff.
Well, you were saying that thing Jackie Gleason used to rub his tummy when he would just start to do improv, and I was like, wow, I want to learn. I want to do that for sex. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to improvise here, rub your tummy, and now you're 69.
Where are you at next week? Anywhere?
Well, I'm going in the middle of October. I told you on my Alaska thing, and I'm just working on a bunch of things, as you know, that are coming up. And but for people that like to play video games, go to the GameFly banner on our website.
Also, I will be in the Baltimore Comedy Factory from September 27th to the 29th, and I'll be at Portland Helium October 11th. Call for details. And that's it, cocksuckers. I love you. Thank you, Chris McGuire.
Oh, thank you, man.
Felicia Michaels, you're looking beautiful today.
Thank you very much.
What your titties smell like.
Wow.
Anyway, I love you, sexy bitch. Have a great week. Bye, cocksuckers.